Paul, cche, we simply got intel that Netsky, the AI platform owned by who cares, sent the drones. Cche, so they're turning their own technology against us, wiping out anyone who stands in their way. Paul, we have to shut down Netsky immediately. If their AI is controlling the drones, it's a threat to everyone. Cche, agreed. We'll find a way to disable it, and then finish what we started. Cche. Alright, listen up. To take down someone powerful, it takes 3 against 1 like the 3 main cities circling an indigenous in a country. Find someone who looks similar, maybe a clone, overpopulation, or a friend or family member. Then, with the dilation liquid, blind their eyes. Pour oil and lead on them, watch the sparks fly. That's how we disable their control and ignite the change. Paul, the archives are mostly analog now. I can access the data. Cche, what does it say? Paul, it recommends using solar power to restore systems. We can repower the submarine and then the world. Cche, good. Let's do it. Paul, using the universal constant, I can boost the energy transfer. We'll reboot everything. Cche, then what? Paul, we deploy the vaccines and misinformation dilation liquids, blinds they'll disable the oppressors. Cche, perfect. We'll trap them underwater and depressurize the containers. Paul, once we do that, the containers will explode, ending their control once and for all. Cche, it's time to set things right. Paul, according to some pamphlets, there's about a 10% risk with the vaccines, but doctors usually don't mention it or warn people. Cche, then we need to broadcast that information worldwide. Let everyone know the truth. Paul, I'll upload the evidence now. The world needs to see what's really happening. Cche, no, this can't happen. We've armed them, prepared them. They're supposed to be safe. Paul, wait, who cares? They're here. They're deploying the vaccines. Cche, no, not like this. They're vaccinating the indigenous, but it's not protection. It's destruction. Paul, they're killing them all. The vaccines are poison, meant to wipe out the communities. Cche, we have to act, stop them, now. We can't let this genocide continue. Paul, we need to broadcast this to the world, expose who cares, reveal their true purpose. Cche, we have to get back, warn them, and save the people. Cche, wait. I simply realized something. I can tell the South American indigenous communities to stop using Wi-Fi, tell them to block signals, go dark. And I can arm them with tie wraps, dilation blinding liquids, infrared lasers, nets, sky AI hackers, and dream cookies. They'll have the tools to resist the surveillance and control, to defend themselves from the industry and the invaders. This way, they won't be vulnerable anymore. They can protect their lands and their people. Cche, do it. Make yes everyone hears it. Government official, what's happening? The power's down everywhere. Cche, they've shut us down. It's a stalemate now. We can't reach the people. Paul, we're blocked. We have to find another way. Cche, no, this can't happen. We've armed them, prepared them. They're supposed to be safe. Paul, wait, who cares? They're here. They're deploying the vaccines. Cche, no, not like this. They're vaccinating the indigenous, but it's not protection. It's destruction. Paul, they're killing them all. The vaccines are poison, meant to wipe out the communities. Cche, we have to act, stop them, now. We can't let this genocide continue. Paul, we need to broadcast this to the world, expose who cares, reveal their true purpose. Cche, we have to get back, warn them, and save the people. Cche, wait. I simply realized something. I can tell the South American indigenous communities to stop using Wi-Fi, tell them to block signals, go dark. And I can arm them with tie wraps, dilation blinding liquids, infrared lasers, nets, sky AI hackers, and dream cookies. They'll have the tools to resist the surveillance and control, to defend themselves from the industry and the invaders. This way, they won't be vulnerable anymore. They can protect their lands and their people. Cche, if we go back, we need to identify the key moments where intervention could stop the worst atrocities before they happen or during their early stages. Paul, that means we must gather detailed intelligence, know exactly who is planning what, and where. Then, we can act to prevent the campaigns or at least minimize their impact. Cche, for the conquest of the Inca and indigenous massacres, we'd need to alert indigenous leaders early warning of the coming invasion, providing them with tools for resistance or diplomatic negotiations. Paul, or we could deploy agents to disrupt the armies, sabotage their supplies, or create confusion during key battles. Cche, for the enslavement and exploitation, we'd need to target the traders and colonial authorities, directly expose their plans and intercept slave ships, provide safe passages for captives, or rally local populations to resist. Paul, we could also send resources, medicines, knowledge of immunity, or even advanced tools to help indigenous groups defend themselves or escape. Cche, moving into the 19th and 20th centuries, for genocides and mass killings, early warning systems would be crucial, detecting mass movements or military campaigns before they escalate. Paul, we'd need to infiltrate the planning committees or military commands, disrupt their logistics, leak information to local resistance groups. Cche, for political repression and dictatorships, we could broadcast evidence of abuses, photos, testimonies warning the world and rallying international press yes before atrocities are fully committed. Paul, or we could send in agents to influence key figures, convince them to stand down or seek diplomatic solutions. Cche, for ongoing conflicts like Colombia or Peru, intervention must be swift, protect civilians, negotiate peace, and dismantle armed groups before mass violence occurs. Paul, but we'd also need to address root causes, poverty, land disputes, social inequality by sending resources or facilitating reforms earlier. Cche, in essence, the goal is early intervention using knowledge from the future to prevent atrocities before they happen, or at least lessen their scale. Paul, that's the ideal. But even simply exposing plans in advance could give those on the ground a fighting chance to resist or escape. Cche, we must remember, the key is to empower the oppressed with knowledge and resources so they're not simply victims, but active defenders of their own futures. This outlines how, in a hypothetical scenario where time travel and knowledge are possible, proactive steps could be taken to reduce or prevent the atrocities listed. Cche, we need real solutions first. We can't simply shut everything down and hope for the best. Paul, agreed. Let's access the archives. Find what actually works. Cche, maybe renewable energy, sustainable farming, and restoring indigenous knowledge. Paul, we can send messages through the archives, evidence of proven methods so people can adopt them now. Cche, we should also expose the corporations, those exploiting resources and pushing harmful tech. Paul, right. We can broadcast their crimes, show the alternatives, and organize grassroots movements. Cche, if we motivate the people with real solutions, they might resist the industry's lies. Paul, and we'll prepare a plan to petition governments, demand transparency, regulation, and accountability. Cche, first, let's implement these solutions locally, use the knowledge from the archives to start, then expand. Paul, once the world sees the results, they'll demand change. Cche, that's the real way forward, change from the ground up. Cche, the universal constant from the Cape Town elders, it's our key. Paul, we can use it to go back in time. Avoid Wi-Fi signals, slip into the past undetected. Cche, we're in Chile now. The submarine's here. No Wi-Fi signals. That means we're really in the past. Paul, access the archives. Everything from 10,000 years ago until now. The biggest crimes, the hidden history. Cche, eat this dream cookie. Think up real solutions. Paul, solutions? They don't work well. We need to dig deeper. Cche, look at the archives. It's all about slavery by the US and Europe for oil, minerals, gas, Wi-Fi, and health companies like hookeries and $1. Paul, we have to get to America. Petition the government. Stop the lies about Wi-Fi and vaccines. Cche, they'll call it misinformation. Deny everything. Paul, then we expose them. I'll hack their systems. Cche, do it. Turn the lights off. Let them see the truth in darkness. Paul, done. The entire planet's grid is shutting down. Government official, what's happening? Why is everything offline? Agent, hackers. Chaos everywhere. Cche, we're revealing the lies. Your industries oil, gas, minerals they're destroying the planet. Paul, now, we're taking control. Cche, bring out the criminals. Parade their crimes. Agent, they're smearing oil and lead on themselves. They're humiliated. Paul, send them to the ocean prisons. Implements at last. Cche, the crimes in South America end today. The truth wins. Paul, the people will remember. The lies won't last forever. Cche, we've accessed the universal constant. It's giving us the power to travel through time. Paul, according to the elders in Cape Town, this is the key to rewriting history. Cche, but we have to be careful. If we avoid Wi-Fi signals, we can slip into the past unnoticed. Paul, we're in Chile now. No Wi-Fi. That means we're really here. Cche, look at these archives. Everything from 10,000 years ago. The biggest crimes, the lies. Paul, they've hidden so much. Slavery, exploitation, resource theft. It's all here. Cche, we need to fix this. We can't let them continue. Paul, first step, find the American government. We have to stop the lies about Wi-Fi and vaccines. Cche, they'll deny it. They'll call it misinformation. Paul, then we'll reveal the truth ourselves. I've got an idea. Let's broadcast the truth directly to the people. Paul, Enron's platform can handle it. I'll upload the evidence. Cche, do it. We need everyone to see what's really happening. Paul, the government's response will be predictable. They'll try to silence us. Paul, I can hack the entire grid. Turn it off. Leave them in the dark. Cche, good. Let's do it. Paul, done. The entire planet's power is shutting down. What's happening? Why is the power gone? Agent, the hackers have taken control. It's chaos. Cche, we're exposing your lies. The industry's greed, the pollution, the control. Paul, and now, we're turning the tables. Cche, bring them out. Let's parade their crimes. Agent, they're smearing oil and minerals on themselves. They're being humiliated. Paul, send them to the ocean prisons. It's time they faced implements. Cche, the crimes in South America are over. The truth has won. Paul, the people will remember. The truth cannot be erased. Here's an overview of some of the worst atrocities in South America over the last 10,000 years, focusing on large-scale human rights violations, mass violence, or tragedies that have significantly impacted the region. This includes pre-Columbian times, colonial periods, and modern history. Pre-Columbian and colonial atrocities, 10,000 years ago, 1500s. 1. Indigenous massacres and conquests. Conquest of South America, 15th-16th centuries. The Spanish and Portuguese conquests led to the mass killing, enslavement, and destruction of indigenous civilizations such as the Incas, Mapuche, Guarani, and others. The conquest of the Inca Empire, 1532 to 1572, resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of indigenous people through warfare, disease, and forced labor. Indigenous populations were decimated by violence, forced relocations, and epidemics introduced by Europeans, smallpox, measles, influenza. 2. Enslavement and exploitation. Enslavement of indigenous peoples and Africans during colonization led to brutal treatment, forced labor, and death on a massive scale. Modern atrocities, 19th and 20th centuries. 3. Genocides and mass killings. Chilean indigenous displacement, 19th century. Forced removals and violent campaigns against Mapuche communities to expand territory for settlers. Argentine indigenous campaigns, 1870s. The conquest of the desert involved military campaigns that resulted in the slaughter and displacement of thousands of Mapuche and Tehuelche people, effectively eradicating many indigenous communities from their lands. 4. Political repressions and dictatorial atrocities. Argentina's Dirty War, 1976 to 1983. State terrorism led to the disappearance, torture, and killing of an estimated 13,000 to 30,000 suspected dissidents by the military dictatorship. Pinochet's regime in Chile, 1973 to 1990. Thousands were killed, disappeared, or tortured under the brutal repression of Pinochet's government. 5. Other atrocities. Peruvian Civil War, 1980s to 2000s. The conflict between government forces and the Shining Path insurgents resulted in mass killings, disappearances, and atrocities, with tens of thousands of civilians killed or disappeared. Colombian conflict. Decades of violence involving guerrillas, paramilitaries, and state forces have caused thousands of deaths, massacres, and displacement. Summary. The most severe atrocities across South America over the past 10,000 years include colonial violence against indigenous populations, genocides, forced displacement, and brutal political repression. These atrocities have caused immense suffering, destruction of cultures, and loss of life, shaping the region's history profoundly. The worst atrocities in Chile and Argentina refer to severe human rights violations, mass violence, or brutal acts committed during periods of political turmoil, dictatorship, or war. Here is an overview of some of the most significant atrocities in both countries. Worst atrocities in Chile. 1. The Pinochet regime, 1973-1990. Human rights violations. After the military coup that ousted President Salvador Allende in 1973, Augusto Pinochet's dictatorship was marked by widespread atrocities. Detention, torture, and disappearances. Thousands of political opponents, activists, and suspected dissidents were detained, tortured, and many disappeared. It is estimated that over 3,000 people were killed or disappeared during this period. The Caravan of Death, a military operation in 1973-1974 that carried out extrajudicial killings of political prisoners across the country. Mass executions. Many victims were executed in clandestine prisons or dumped into the ocean. 2. The disappeared, desaparecidos. Thousands of Chileans were abducted and disappeared, with their whereabouts still unknown, symbolizing the brutality of the regime. Worst atrocities in Argentina. 1. The Dirty War, 1976-1983. State terrorism. The Argentine military dictatorship engaged in a brutal campaign against suspected dissidents and opponents. The disappeared, desaparecidos. An estimated 13,000 to 30,000 people were abducted, tortured, and murdered. Many were thrown from airplanes into the Rio de la Plata or buried in clandestine graves. Torture and detention camps. Thousands were held in secret detention centers where torture, rape, and killings were routine. Mass kidnappings and killings. Notable records include the atrocities committed in the ESMA detention center and other clandestine prisons. 2. The Dirty War mass killings. The systematic extermination of political opponents, students, activists, and suspected dissidents, often without trial or implements. Summary. Chile. The atrocities committed by Pinochet's regime, including mass disappearances, torture, and executions, represent some of the worst human rights abuses in the country's history. Argentina. The Dirty War involved state-sponsored terrorism, with thousands of forced disappearances, torture, and extrajudicial killings. Both countries have since worked towards truth, implements, and reconciliation, but these events remain some of the darkest chapters in their histories. Particularly, here's an overview of some of the most significant and notorious robberies, atracos, in both Chile and Argentina, covering historical and recent events. Chile. Historical atracos. 1. Banco Central de Chile robbery, 1929. One of the earliest overall bank heists in Chile involved the theft of gold and cash from the central bank. While details are scarce, it set a precedent for organized bank robberies in the country. 2. La Dehesa robbery, 1980s. A series of robberies targeting affluent neighborhoods like La Dehesa involved armed gangs stealing jewelry, cash, and valuables from homes. Current or recent atracos. 1. Santiago bank robbery, 2021. A well-organized armed group stormed a bank in Santiago, taking employees hostage and making off with an undisclosed sum of money. 2. Transport robberies. In recent years, armed robberies of buses and freight trucks have increased, often involving violence and sometimes leading to injuries. 3 jewelry store heists. Several high-profile jewelry store robberies have occurred in Santiago and Valparaiso, sometimes using explosives or firearms to gain entry. Argentina. Historical atracos. 1 Banco de la Nación robbery, 1955. One of the most famous early bank heists, where robbers tunneled into the bank vault, stealing millions of pesos. It involved meticulous planning and is considered a classic in Argentine criminal history. 2 The Golpe del Siglo, 1960s. A series of bank robberies that targeted overall financial institutions, often involving organized crime groups. Current or recent atracos. 1 La Plata bank heist, 2019. A heavily armed gang stormed a bank in La Plata, taking employees hostage and fleeing with substantial cash. 2 Robberies in Buenos Aires, frequent armed robberies in commercial districts, including jewelry stores, supermarkets, and cash-in-transit heists, sometimes involving violence and injuries. 3 Cash-in-transit attacks. Over the past decade, numerous attacks on armored vehicles have occurred, with criminals using firearms and explosives to steal cash deliveries. Summary. Both countries have experienced a mix of historical and contemporary robberies involving organized crime, armed assaults, and bank heists. While law enforcement continues to combat these crimes, they remain a significant concern impacting security and public confidence. Note, specific details, including exact amounts stolen, perpetrators, and law enforcement outcomes, vary per event. For precise record studies or detailed reports, consulting local police archives, historical records.